to Professor Winston. Are you going to stay there, Winston? Well, he's going to come to the mic. But I don't know you'll have time to go through all those books. Please welcome Professor Sweet.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
When I was approached to participate in this exercise, I had no reservation. I grew up in the Deep South. I went to school in the Deep South. I worked in the Deep South. I taught in 4 schools in Deep South, including in Point Fortin. And many of my students come from the Deep South, which even at present, I have to motivate and talk about development. I am not talking because I come from South. I suppose when I was asked to talk, it was because I was an engineer in the staff here at the Faculty of Engineering. And my 7 years as a contractor and my 30 years, more or less, as an academic has been in the area of construction and development, infrastructure in particular, the environmental question, and disaster management. I therefore believe that the issues that are raised here fall within my remit. I wish first to say that the project that we are now focusing has a genesis, and I'm glad that my friend raised the point and alluded to 1981 with the Point Fortin Road. And in his discussion he mentioned some other roads. In fact, he talked about the San Fernando to the East Coast. That was a road that was being discussed. In fact, it was one of the projects we did in my final year in 1974. These projects of road development have been around for a long time. In terms of the climate in which we are engaged in the discussion, I wish first to make a point. And that's why I brought 2 copies of the National Physical Development Plan. Because part of our problem today is because we have been carrying out this discussion, even this present one, and a number of others that preceded it, with the absence of an up-to-date National Physical Development Plan. Not only that, we, and when I say we, I mean the people who sit in Parliament on our behalf, are in breach of the law. The law, the Town and Country Planning Act of 1960, and amended by several pieces of legislation, now listed at Chapter 3501, Section 5 and 6, speaks to the requirement for a National Physical Development Plan and the need to update it every 5 years. My first copy deals with 1978. It's a draft. The draft was repeated in 1982, and it has never been dealt with in the Parliament. And ministers of works and planning, including the present one, have not provided the country with a National Physical Development Plan. The present minister, when he was appointed, promised us one soon, so I am not surprised if we don't get it. Because several other ministers have said that it will come. So what do we have? We have development without the benefit of a National Physical Development Plan. And this is very important. In fact, what we have now is development by what you call, well, I don't want to call it that. What I want to say is that we have had instead a number of zonal plans and site plans for specific areas like downtown Port of Spain, Point Lisas, etc. But we do not have a national physical development plan. And what this does, it opens up the arena for what I call modern Luddites. People who are anti-development and anti-technology and movement forward. It gives them the opportunity because there's no national physical development plan, and as my friend said, there is no guide for the population. In terms of the climate, one is inclined to say that while a lot of people like to talk of Vox Populi, Vox Dei, I think we have reached a point where now we should consider Vox Populi, Vox Scientia. The present climate is not one for logic. It is not one for study. It is not one for analysis. It is not one based on science, on data, or economic development. It refers to what we call voodoo economics and voodoo studies on environmental topics. We have had the opposition some years ago to the Toco port, to which my colleague posed. I wish we had more time to talk about that. Because the voodoo environmentalists, the right wing of the environmental movement, were able to stop the Toco port, and Toco is just where it is. And that we had in the past, one of my good colleagues now deceased, who opposed steadfastly the building of a North Coast Road. And we don't have a North Coast Road. And therefore people who are in Matlock remain where they are. We have to face, in other words, the fact that we have had opposition to the smelter. And that, in a sense, is at the core of a lot of opposition. The absence of not only the smelter, but the absence of the replacement of a major basis for development in the Southwestern Peninsula. That opens up the avenue for the right wing in the environmental movement. I point out that the 1973-74 highway from Princestown to the East Coast, we will have opposition, so we must prepare for it. We will have opposition for the tunnel. Some people think it's Jack Warner Tunnel. In fact, it is not Jack Warner Tunnel. In the 1960s, Lieutenant Capellet first proposed the question of a North Coast Road.
Chulaluraya Buzz Butler Tunnel. One manifesto.
What some people pose the question today, I would like to pose it differently. It is the debate between development and non-development. It is not the environment versus development. And I need to make one comment on that. Because today, as I said, we are not guided by logic or reason. We are guided by pursuits in a certain direction on the grounds of environmental, whatever you call it. I need to point out, because this is not only what I have to teach, but this is what we have to wrestle in the university with. That environmental studies include environmental sciences. We don't have time to go into what it's about, but the last presenter listed some indication. We have environmental management, we have environmental economics, we have environmental law, and we have environmental policy. And I am saying, I am not assured that we are being informed by study in these areas. We must put on the table certain facts. That in fact, a feasibility study was done. I bought copies of just one of them. My friend said it was hidden. Well, I beg to differ. These studies, several drafts were carried out. This is just one for one section. Golconda to Debe. We have others that deal with Debe to Mondesi. In other words, we have extensive studies on environmental impact assessment. And I wish to make a point. My colleague mentioned that. The studies were carried out by what I consider the leading environmental impact company in the Caribbean, led by one of our leading graduates from this university and possibly the first PhD in environmental studies in the Caribbean. And therefore I'm asking myself, what are we doing? Are we comparing consultants with consultants? This is a serious issue that we have to deal with.
Who is environmental?
Without names, it is listed as Eco Engineering Consultants Limited.
All right, let him finish, please.
What's that? Let's go on answer the
What was the bid process?
Winston,
What was the what?
your time is going,
No,
Winston.
let him. That's all right, that's all right. My friend made mention to the fact that the feasibility studies were done, and I brought one example of the document here. And to the question of people saying it was done in secret or it was not made public, do you have the studies for the airport? Do you have the studies for the bridge that we have that's being built? No. These studies are not made, put in the public domain, but they are available if people want.
So if you talk about that, yeah.
Please wait for questions here.
I'm going to have to ask you to let him finish. Please.
Yeah, yes,
Time to check. All right?
The design was checked by eminent firm of Halco. The checking of those were done by Arup. And we have identified the contractor. And I would like to say that as an academic involved in teaching, that I believe that NIDCO has collected a team of the best that we have produced in the faculty, in the staff, to be the project manager on this job. In other words, the project has been subject to extreme review and investigation. I need to make a word on what we call the environmental impact assessment. Some people focus on the task of an environmental impact assessment as purely to identify problems. An EIA is not only to present problems and risks and challenges, but to present solutions. That is what engineers do. They present solutions to problems. And I find, therefore, that part of the discussion must be on solutions. And there is no single highway in Trinidad where an embankment has been made that we do not have culverts taking water from one side to the other. And therefore, the present highway will have culverts to take water from one side. I believe that I would much prefer somebody who looks at numbers than look at speculation of opinion in terms of flooding. Flooding is not about I think, it is I calculate. A word on what I call the southwestern peninsula. The highway is not only for Penal, it is not only for Point Fortin, it is not only for St. Francis or Labre or Faizabad. It is for all of them. Our weakness is that the vision has not developed into an argument in favor of a road. This is not about traffic counts, because traffic counts can only tell you about expansion of existing roads. The development of new roads have to be driven by a vision of what is the purpose, what you expect. The question about flooding, as the previous speaker made mention, the data and the maps show that the area in question has been flood-prone. And therefore, the contractor, this is one of the advantages in this case of the design and build, where the contractor, part of the contract, is that at the end, the flooding problem must be reduced. That is part of the contract. In other words, if the design or the construction fails to do that, then his work is incomplete. It is built in that the flooding problem must be mitigated. My friend also mentioned that it's not simply a highway being developed to go to Point Fortin. It is beyond Point Fortin. It is what some people who are very concerned about the area, Erin, Ikakas, Granville, etc., that has literally shriveled up over the last 40 years since the oil industry was removed and Dunlop collapsed. This is why I am in agreement with one of the speakers who said that yes, the people in Point Fortin and beyond will be in favor of the highway. Now the question of, I'm sure my time is...
You have 4 minutes.
Well,
not your asking.
all right, I'll deal with this, but I would like to deal with this. The argument here that we could cut back from this point to here and exclude that, well, the arguments are seriously wrong. If you do that, then all the traffic you are bringing from Port of Spain will be throwing on this road so that you will have traffic congestion. In other words, this is not a wise answer. It is creating more problems. In terms of the treatment here, I think generations to come will condemn us in here, whether the government or the agitators, if we leave Penal, Debe, Faizabad, Sipara, St. Francis, etc., outside of the whole development process in the Southwestern Peninsula. It's about development. We have to understand that this is what China spent 2 decades doing. China spent 2 decades building roads, and today we are mesmerized by the development. If we do not build roads now, we will find ourselves in time to come, as Tracy will say, trying to build the roads. We will have more problems with more houses developing ad hoc, because that's what we have before we do have a national physical development plan. And therefore it will be more expensive, you will have more property to acquire, and it's more difficulty. And therefore my argument is that the problems that we see, one, are soluble. Two, the highway is necessary. There was some reservation about the expansion, the work on the creek. We all know from south that the creek floods. It floods. We get flooding from the land and we get storm surge pushing water. And therefore the creek has to be fixed. There are several options. And I am saying, I would believe that if we have assembled, meaning Trinidad, has assembled skill and expertise and knowledge and the best to deal with the engineering and environmental problems, I will tend to want to believe that that is the best time to go. Thank you very much.